About Asif, like he told me about a moment how he announced pack up because a whole pond didn't have real ittar in it. You know, he wanted real ittar in that pond so that Madhubala could actually give that close-up as a result of the whiff. I mean, you can't fill in a pond full of real ittar. But he said 3 days, they said they would take to do it. He packed up, 3 days they didn't shoot till that pond was full of full ittar. That was the genius of those musicians. Whether it was the magic of Madan Mohan and S.T. Burman and Shankar Jaikishan, the music made that era very strong. And I'm like, that's the amazing part of that era. You could look at it as cinema insanity. I look at it as cinema passion.
Karan, the golden era of Hindi cinema, loosely defined as 1948 to 1965, are the iconic years. You know, there was such an unparalleled confluence of like directors, actors, cinematographers, writers, poets. How have the films of this time shaped you as an artist?
It's a very long answer, so I'm going to try and keep it brief because I don't think anyone wants to hear my saga when we talk about such beautiful sagas. But it really dates back to when I was 8 years old and my mother used to listen to a lot of radio and then a lot of audio cassettes. You know, she was obsessed by the music of that period, be it the music of Guru Dutt's movies or all the Kishore, Lata, Asha Bhosle, Mohammad Rafi songs. So I, as a child, have been brought up not on the fodder of what regular kids my age, because also the gap between me and my father was like he was 40 years old when he had me. And my mother was not somebody who wanted me to kind of like encourage me in sports or anything else. So I spent a lot of time with her at home. And all she did was listen to those songs. So I knew the words of all those songs at 9 and 10. So obviously when the VHS phase came out, my immediate desire was to see those movies that had those songs. So everybody else was watching cartoons and I was a weird 9 and 10 year old. I watched Guru Dutt at that age. I watched Kaagaz Ke Phool, Pyaasa, and the other thing was Vahida auntie is a really dear friend of the family. In fact, my father had even helped her get married when she did. So she was in and out of the house. So Sadhana auntie and Vahida auntie, my father's Rakhi sisters, so to say. For me, like when Sadhana auntie used to talk to me about her fringe and how it was a mistake, you know, how it happened. And then it became like a thing, you know, to have the sadhana cut. So I've grown up seeing these ladies in my house on a daily basis.
For a 10-year-old, what is the attraction of a Pyaasa or a Awaara?
I don't know, Anu. It was just, I was drawn into that musical world.
You just went into it?
I just went into it and I was just mesmerized by Guru Dutt. I kept asking questions about him at a young age. I wanted to know, and there was... Whoever spoke to me, some aunts even gave me information I shouldn't have got about Guru Dutt at a young age. And I was like, I just was obsessed by him. His intensity, the way he loved. And I don't know what it was about his face that kind of just worked with me, and that music. Kaagaz Ke Phool at one point in time, I think I saw 5 times in 1 week.
How old were you?
And let me tell you, my cinema has never reflected this. It's just an obsession I had with that era and those songs and those visuals. Vintage Raj Kapoor. Awaara, which I must have seen multiple times. And then, of course, I saw Aag and I saw Andaz and I saw so many films that were directed by him, not directed by him. In fact, I watched Pakiza and Mughal-e-Azam much later. I watched this period even before. My father told me incidents about the filming of so many. My father was on the sets of Mughal-e-Azam and so was actually in and around the films being made. So I've also have this voluminous information of the things that were happening on set at that time. Dynamics between actor and director, actress and director.
What's the story that stayed with you?
So many. I mean, incidents about Dev Saab's time was much later, not of the golden era. But about Asif, like he told me about a moment how he announced pack up because a whole pond didn't have real ittar in it. You know, he wanted real ittar in that pond so that Madhubala could actually give that close-up as a result of the whiff that she would get.
But she had to get a real whiff.
She had to get a real whiff to give that beauteous expression. There was water, like anybody would do. It's a production requirement. You can't fill in a pond full of real ittar. But he said 3 days, they said they would take to do it. He packed up, 3 days they didn't shoot till that pond was full of full ittar. To the point, like even down to a story where I have to share with you, my father told me about Guide, which was being made much later, where Dev Saab insisted that we should shoot in Rohtang Pass. And my father was production controller, and he reached a point and he said, no, we have to go to Rohtang Pass, which is 12 kilometers, shoot the song Gata Rahe Mera Dil. And at that point of time, my father said it was logistically impossible to reach 12 kilometers beyond where they were because the unit had already worked so much up to that point. So he just casually went up to the DOP of the film, the director of photography, and said, "Hum jahan hai, where we are right now, does it look pretty much the same from where you will capture Rohtang Pass?" He says, "Yes, Shri, it will look the same." So he took a look at the milestone that said Rohtang Pass 12 kilometers, made them paint it and write Rohtang Pass 0 kilometer. And Dev Saab has reached location and said, "Fantastic, look at this beautiful location. I told you, Yashin, you were arguing with me. Look how beautiful." And they shot, "Oh, mere Hamrahi, mere," just see it in the song. It's that whole antra they've done in that location, which was a cheat Rohtang Pass location. After that, Dev Saab didn't tell anyone. In his flamboyant way, decided to take a walk. Took a walk, a kilometer down, he reads Rohtang Pass 11 kilometers. And has thrown a Herculean fit. But by then the job was done, the film was shot. To the point that Sanju will tell you this, Dutt Saab actually told my father overnight that for Reshma or Shera, he wanted 100 camels. My father was a production controller, so was given these requirements. So overnight went to the Aas-Paas ke gaon and villages and got 100 camels. But he came, and they weren't 100. So he came to Dutt Saab exhausted, not having slept, and said, "Dutt Saab, I'm sorry, I couldn't get you 100 camels, but I got you 99. Because that was he got 99 for the... Dutt Saab looked at him and said, "Pack up," and walked off. And he was serious.
Because they weren't 100.
They weren't 100, they were 99 camels. And this is hashtag true story. And I'm like, that's the amazing part of that era. You could look at it as cinema insanity. I look at it as cinema passion. I don't know how many people from the generation today would really want to know these stories, but I hope they do, because they resonate deep conviction and passion in a way that we don't operate today.
This era, Karan, also threw up Andaz in 1949,
Yes.
which was, of course, to my mind, the first debate in Hindi cinema about love and friendship.
Right.
Which is something your films deal a lot with. Did this film in any way impact on yours?
All of them did. I'm a result. So Kuch Kuch Hota, you must understand, or any work I've done subsequently, is a grand result of all the cinema I watched of this period. Whether it's Andaz or it's Prem Rog, like actually if you really see the relationship between Padmini and Rishi Kapoor and Prem Rog, or the fact that you're talking about the big debate of Andaz, love and friendship, it all actually adds up in my framing, in my compositions that I've tried to. Every time we go top, I'm telling you that's Raj Kapoor. Like the top shot is owned by that era. They went, like in cinema, the way they, with the chandelier in the foreground and the camera before it, that is a Raj Kapoor frame. Guru Dutt is about silhouette. You know, it's about the black and white just caught it more efficiently. But that silhouette shot, that he just created the magic between just composition and the way he integrated lighting with mood and yet stuck to storytelling.
This era is also where the Hindi film star system sort of came into place.
Right.
You know, with the big three, Dilip Kumar, Raj Kapoor and Devanand. How do you think the star system has actually shaped Hindi cinema?
I think they kind of, what happened is prior to that, the star system didn't exist. The three men pretty much helmed it, and it became about falling in love and creating an icon for yourself on celluloid. I think they began that journey, and it's pretty much just been expanded. But definitely it introduced us that you must create a phenomena and then follow their journey, fall in love with them, and they in many ways model your way of thinking and you model theirs. It's just been a give and take from the audience and movie star ever since they started. This Tridev. I mean,
they're beautiful.
I feel like the three Khans definitely have that same camaraderie at many times, give or take seasons in between. It's been actually, I see the synergy in different ways. But I definitely thought that phase and period, like you rightfully pointed out, made India fall in love with a movie star or movie stars and created a relationship between movie star and audience.
Karan, you talked earlier about the movies. This was a time of, Lata Mangeshkar hitting her stride after Aega Aane Wala. There were poets like Sahir Ludhianvi. When the musical sensibility is so refined, how does that shape Hindi cinema?
It always has. It's unfortunate today that we've lost lip sync songs, which actually used to be the mainstay of mainstream cinema. Those days, the music was so magical that it said everything that even scenes didn't. Sometimes the way Lataji sang a song, she performed 80% for the actress. They had to do very little. Look at the way she expressed in a song. She was an actress. She was not just a leading singer. She was also an actress. She performed those songs. So you didn't have to do anything. They shot those songs, Anu, in tight close-ups. That was the genius of those musicians. Whether it was the magic of Madan Mohan and S.T. Burman and Shankar Jaikishan, R.D. Burman, who I think is the coolest guy in town today. Like, look at his melodies. Look at what he did. Look at how he created that melody. We still don't have. We have, the other sound genius was A.R. Rahman. But before that, the real genius of contemporary music was R.D. Burman. And of course, before that, the greats that I mentioned. They modeled and fashioned content in a way that was just spectacular. They made that era, the music made that era very strongly. Let me tell you, and today we've lost that music.
Karan, if there was one film from all these movies that you had to recommend to a millennial, what would it be?
So I'll be clever about that recommendation because I'll also keep in mind pace. And, you know, I would say to watch Awaara. Awaara is a little more fast moving than the films of that time.
It's a very dramatic story also.
It's also pacier than the others. Awaara is very watchable even for a millennial. Of course, you have to disregard many elements because you know you're watching a film made in that period. But yes, Awaara is. The other film that I would strongly give a slightly, because I believe millennials today, contrary to what we think, are even more in touch with their, I think, deeper emotional side.
So do you do that? Do you make the people you're mentoring study
So when
these
I've
films?
gone, I said, listen, there's an academia to our industry and the history of our cinema. There is a golden period. There is a going in right. There is a 40s and 50s. There is a hill station zone of the 60s. There's the angry young man, anti-establishment when we went through emergency and repression. He was the man who became the voice of the system. Then we went straight into pots, pans, utensils and remakes of, and then we clutched onto love. It was deep level of consumerism that created Shah Rukh Khan. There's an academic to how India reflects very strongly in the cinema story. It's how you look at it.
And how it's evolved.
Yeah.
Of course. Karan, are there one or two scenes from this time that you sort of consider kind of masterclasses in the craft?
Oh, Andaz, the scene where the lights go off. Which Raj Kapoor also has used in Prem Rogue very dramatically. The lights going off has been... and the lights go off. And in Andaz, where the lover is spotted, when she goes and she confesses something, but to the wrong man. And it's that moment in Andaz, and when he lights his cigarette at the end of it, and you realize that she was talking to the wrong man. I was like, oh my God. I went like, whoa. Like when I saw it the first time, I was like, that's amazing. That to me is the moment. And Waqt Ne Kiya, the entire song, like it shatters me every time I see it.
Okay, I'm going to end, Karan, with a quote by you. You said filmmakers like Pyaasa, Raj Kapoor and Bimal Roy made films for films and films alone. No other reason. They painted palettes with conviction, passion and love. All that is diminished and depleted today. Today, it's just about box office weekend, 100 crores, actors' fees. It's no longer about the light in the frame, the beat in the music, the hold of the man and the woman. It's all out the window. Can we and how do we bring back this passion in artistry?
I don't know, Anu. I don't know. I don't know how to begin this movement. I don't know where to begin. I think I'm a victim of it myself and I'm responsible for it as well. We've all succumbed to the system. We've all become, what's the budget? What's the recovery? What is the satellite fee? What is the digital fee? What will we get for music? How much will it do overseas? We've become accountants. We've not become filmmakers anymore. We've stopped being filmmakers. Where nobody's allowing us to do. I remember people sold their homes at that time. I myself, my father, and I'm way back later, we had to sell a flat of ours when my father gave a flop in a film called Muqaddar Ka Faisla. We sold a house to recover the monies that we had lost to financiers. People sold homes in those days. Will anyone do it today? Will you sell a home and make a film? Today it's not, I don't know how to bring that passion back. I don't know how to answer your question because I feel guilty and yet I feel responsible. So I don't know, I go through like a multitude of emotions when I hear what I have to say because it is true. They made Raj Kapoor nearly lost. He was going to put it up before he made Bobby with Mera Naam Joker. He was practically like done with. And then he locks himself up in a room, reads Archie comics, comes back and makes Bobby. And then he fights back with a young cast. Who would do that today?
We just have to learn.
So we have to wait for retrospect of this time to see what happens. Right now, I don't know if we'll enjoy the magic of just passion. It's passion plus money.
Karan, thank you so much.
Thank you.